attacked that alliance. You said they're pathetic. You called them freeloaders. They have paid, and we want more money, and they're giving more money for their own defense, but they've given $199 billion towards Ukraine, more than the U.S., by the way. And they're not freeloaders when they came to our assistance at 9/11. They suffered thousands of casualties, several hundred deaths. They're young men and women sacrificed to defend Article 5, the only time it was exercised for the United States. They're not freeloaders.
Today, Rep. Bill Keating doesn't hold back. He calls out the so-called chaos cabinet and lays bare how dangerous, reckless, and mismanaged U.S. foreign and defense policy has become under the Trump administration. From mismanaged military aid to Ukraine to shady deals with El Salvador, this hearing isn't just a critique, it's a warning for every American. Let's break it down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to take my time to react to the testimony already given. The three pillars that each of the witnesses and the Secretary highlighted. Pillar number one, restore the warrior ethos. You know, I've had the privilege in this committee to see firsthand a special window of our troops, their courage, their tenacity, their commitment. You don't have to restore the warrior ethos, sir. It's already there. We've never lost it. Pillar two, I just want to highlight something that is a concern. Pillar two is the border security issue. And among that, I'm really worried about the agreement with El Salvador that exists. I think it's very cloudy. We don't know exactly what they're getting in return for their commitment to house the hellhole prisons. In the hellhole prisons they have, people that are shipped there, transported there illegally. But there's problems with that. It violates the Constitution, number one. It violates the First Step Act that President Trump paraded around and took so much credit for in his first term, he and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. It violates the Leahy Law, which prohibits federal money to be used for prisons of that type. It violates the Foreign Assistance and Transparency and Accountability Act that our Secretary of State was a proud sponsor of, that demands taxpayer accountability for monies, because all we know is the White House has said they've given El Salvador, given their strongman, Bukele, $6 million. But then they're holding another $15 million in international narcotics and control and law enforcement to the side for prospective use here. And of concern, too, is we're now transferring helicopters, military assets, to Bukele. We're giving him helicopters. And I'm concerned about that. Supposedly it's there for humanitarian reasons. It's being taken away from the Drug Control Task Force dealing with the fentanyl issue. And now it's there for humanitarian reasons in Bukele's control. And I'm just worried about going down the road here. I think there should be strict oversight of what they're getting from the U.S. If that's not there, and there's dark money and dark assets being passed, we could have the makings of another Iran-Contra. Thirdly, the third pillar, deterrence. And I look to what every expert militarily, from a security standpoint, said is the greatest deterrent that we have with China and Russia, and our greatest weakness if we lose it. And that's the war in Ukraine. If we fail to support Ukraine, and Ukraine loses, that's a green light for China. That's just not my opinion. That's virtually every security expert. We have something China and Russia don't have. We have a coalition of 50 countries, 50, dealing together. They don't have anything near that. Yet, you've attacked that alliance. You said they're pathetic. You called them freeloaders. They have paid, and we want more money, and they're giving more money for their own defense. But they've given $199 billion towards Ukraine, more than the U.S., by the way. And they're not freeloaders when they came to our assistance at 9/11. They suffered thousands of casualties, several hundred deaths. They're young men and women sacrificed to defend Article 5, the only time it was exercised for the United States. They're not freeloaders dealing with that. And yet today, you attacked one of them saying that now you've confirmed that the U.S. has plans in place to invade the territory of a founding member of NATO, Denmark. That's not being strong. That's not being strong. It's also chaotic. This is the chaos cabinet when it comes to Ukraine. Secretary of the Treasury, Putin is a war criminal. Trump's chief negotiator, Putin is trustworthy. He's not a bad guy. Secretary of State, Putin was a war criminal, I guess, but now he's not. He doesn't know. Trump says Ukraine was the aggressor. The Secretary of State says Russia was the aggressor. You, sir, the Secretary of Defense, said Russia was the aggressor. The chair of Joint Chiefs said yesterday that Putin would even stop at Ukraine. The Trump ambassador resigned because of this policy, and I think Vice President Vance said it best. He said he doesn't care what happens to Ukraine one way or the other. That is not strength. That is not using our coalition. That is not deterrence. You're wrong on all your pillars. I yield back.
What you just witnessed in this fiery exchange, Bill Keating starts strong by immediately challenging the narrative that Trump's team is restoring the warrior ethos. Keating is clear. American troops already have courage, skill, and dedication. They don't need a lesson in being warriors. The real issue is a political administration that thinks image and optics can replace strategy, competence, and accountability. This isn't just a rhetorical jab. It underscores a pattern of leaders who overpromise, underdeliver, and politicize our military for self-serving purposes. Next, Keating turns to border security. He exposes what many Americans don't know. The administration's deal with El Salvador is murky, potentially unconstitutional, and in violation of multiple U.S. laws, including the First Step Act and the Leahy Law. This isn't a minor technicality. It's taxpayer dollars being funneled without transparency, with American military assets, including helicopters, handed over to a foreign strongman with minimal oversight. Keating's warning is chilling. Without accountability, this could spiral into another scandal reminiscent of Iran-Contra, where U.S. resources were misused in ways that undermined both legality and ethics. Keating's final pillar hits at the heart of U.S. global security, deterrence. He stresses that America's greatest advantage isn't a single leader or weapon system. It's our alliances, our coalition of 50 countries standing together. Yet, the Trump administration has repeatedly undermined this coalition, insulting allies, calling them freeloaders, and contradicting long-standing U.S. commitments. Keating notes that these allies have contributed billions to Ukraine's defense and sacrificed lives during 9/11. They aren't freeloaders, they are partners. Undermining them weakens America's strategic position and emboldens aggressors like Putin and, potentially, China. Keating calls out the chaos in the cabinet itself. There is no coherent policy on Ukraine. One official says Putin is a war criminal. Another says he is trustworthy. The president himself has contradicted his own administration repeatedly. Ambassadors resign, allies are insulted, and America's credibility suffers. This isn't just a policy disagreement. It's a national security crisis. The lesson Keating delivers is clear. You can't deter aggressors if your team is divided, uncoordinated, and publicly contradicting itself. By labeling it a chaos cabinet, Keating encapsulates a broader truth. Leadership is not just about words, titles, or optics. It's about results, accountability, and strategic consistency. And in every pillar, from military ethos to border agreements to global deterrence, the Trump administration is failing. Keating's testimony isn't just a critique of one secretary or one policy. It's a warning of systemic mismanagement that puts American safety, global alliances, and national integrity at risk. If you want to understand the stakes of U.S. foreign policy under a chaotic administration, this hearing is a masterclass. And if you care about accountability, transparency, and responsible governance, it's a call to action. Stay informed, speak out, and demand leaders who respect law, allies, and American values. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, subscribe and turn on notifications. The stakes are too high to ignore, and staying informed is the first step toward holding leaders accountable. Share this video to make sure your friends know what's happening behind the scenes in Washington.